distance, which is partly floodlit at the top. That's the Victoria Tower. When the King comes to do the King 19, very expensive. Now get your cameras ready. On your right, Fort Mason, I want you to get a photo of. That's it, nice and slowly past here, thank you. So here we are, this is Fort Mason, founded in 1707. Fabulous, fabulous shop. Look at the window displays, especially around the front. Very elegant, very pretty. Really nice shop. If you want a souvenir, if you're from abroad, you want something very English to take home, but not very expensive, go and get, joking apart, go and get their tea bags, beautifully put in a box, and then you get a very nice bag. It only costs you about £7. It's incredibly easy. And then next door to Fort Mason on your right, you've got Hatchard's, the Royal Bookshop. It's now owned by Waterstones, but it's still branded separately. Hatchard's, the Royal Bookshop, the Royal Coat of Arms above it here. And then further along on the right, you're going to see St James's Piccadilly, very nice, and they built by Christopher Wren. They let homeless people sleep inside at night time. So just here on your right, there we are, St James's Piccadilly, very simple but very elegant church. Now on the left, this hotel with the scaffolding used to be called the Meridian, but they rebranded as the Dilly. I don't think their marketing department knows that the Dilly was a nickname for this area used by sex workers. On your right, can you see Waterstones? Do you remember Are You Being Served, the TV series? The man who wrote that, Jeremy Lloyd, worked as a young man at a department store called Simpsons of Piccadilly. That gave him the idea for Grace Brothers and all those wonderful characters. Now ahead of us you've got Pall Mall, very old-fashioned English gentlemen's club. So if you're in America, a gentleman's club means a strip joint. I'm sorry to disappoint some of the men here, but over here it's where well-off men meet their friends, have dinner, sit in leather armchairs, have brandy and cigars. That's the Institute of Directors on your left, that's mainly businessmen. And then the Athenaeum, the next one along, with the beautiful statue, gold statue of the Greek goddess Athena above the front door. That's the Athenaeum. That's a very intellectual club. You get lots of philosophers and bishops and academics there. Now we're going to go right here. Nice photo possibly of the Christmas tree. This is the Crimean War Memorial. This is very topical given what's going on in Ukraine. You see the statue of the woman on the left there, of the two statues, the one on the left, Florence Nightingale, first modern British nurse, brought basic hygiene to the military hospitals here. This is a war in the 1850s. We were fighting the Russians in the Crimea. We won. Britain always wins its wars. That was the American War of Independence. So on your right, you've got Christmas tree, and then there's a very nice 5-star hotel called the Sofitel. Nearer to Christmas, they have put pretty lights on those here. Very unusual surname, J-E-R-M-Y-N, German, Henry German. That's German. Find that as go along. So we're just going to go around the roundabout and onto the bridge. Cathedral all lit up by Christopher Wren, built after the Great Fire of 1666, and you'll see the skyscrapers of the financial district. Now this is the City of London. If you're from abroad, city with a capital C is the original London. It's a square mile, the shape of a Roman fort. It was built by the Romans, and it's got its own Lord Mayor, got the Lord Mayor in fact, and its own police force, completely modern police force despite its size, and its own local government. When you go in or out of the city, you'll see a dragon with a shield. It's a symbol of the City of London, and they own London Bridge, so the dragon with the shield is on the south side. Now I've got the Courtauld Institute of Art. It's very big. Now you can't see the central courtyard from here, but there is one, and in the summer they have nice fountains, and in the winter, in the run-up to Christmas, they have an ice skating rink, a bit like the one in the Rockefeller Center in New York. Have we got anyone from America on board today? Welcome, welcome. Hello, welcome. Now ahead of us, you can just about see the columns and floodlit of the Lyceum Theatre, where the Lion King's been playing for 20 years. It was the acting home of a man called Sir Henry Irving. Very big star, but no one's heard of him nowadays. We've all heard of his business manager, because to be a bit more creative, in 1897 he wrote a novel you've all heard of, because the novel was Dracula. So Bram Stoker worked for Sir Henry. And look to your left. You'll see the Savoy Theatre on the right and the hotel. Now this is the only road in England, where you drive by law on the right, because Victorian women got them to change the law because they wanted to get out of the carriage into the theatre without getting wet. So there you are, there's the hotel, very beautiful. And they have a really nice Christmas tree all illuminated cathedral, and they brought it back in a barrel of brandy. It's the only way to preserve it on the sailing voyage home. So not a bad way. It's down the end of the Mall, through that gap in the building work here, just at the very bottom of the Mall. So there's the National Gallery, all lit up, very pretty. You pay for visiting exhibitions, but the main art collection, one of the world's greatest art collections, is completely free. And as you move forward, you're going to see the maple leaf flags of Canada on our right, and that's a Canadian High Commission. If you're a Commonwealth country, that's basically ex-empire, then you have a High Commissioner of Love, and Shaftesbury Avenue with lots of theatres. And this big public display here, there was an electronic advertising board here before World War I. Obviously it wasn't state-of-the-art videos, it was just lights that made names and shapes and advertisements, but it's interesting to think there was an electronic advertising, elegant Parisian style street, and this alteration is very elegant. Again, I had a complete makeover about 10 years ago, and it's a very smart place, and they have very good, or they used to have very good cabaret there a few years ago. When I was last in there, they had very good cabaret, as well as being a nice place to have a drink or to get a bite to eat. So that's a Café Royal, Oscar Wilde's favourite restaurant. No, not this road on the right, but the next one. You're going to, if you look through, you'll see the Soho Christmas light is jokingly red lights. The Soho used to be the red light district. These days everything's online, of course, so things have changed. But out front, I don't know if they're going to be there now or whether they've gone in. And if we were here a week before Christmas, you would not believe how many people would be in there. Now, coming up on our right is a lovely shop called Liberties. Now, it's Victorian, but the front of it was made to look like a very, very old house. It might make an unusual photo.
Wow.
Very pretty. See? Very, very pretty. That's Liberties. Now, much more modern, on your left you've got one of the two big Apple stores in London. The other...
There you go, Apple.
BBC in Portland Place, just up there towards Regent's Park. This is Oxford Street, these are the Oxford Street lights. It's all very sparkly, they're LED lights these days, so they're all very safely, you know, environmental. See lots of famous shops here as well, but not quite as upmarket the brands as in Regent Street, where we've just been. So all the Christmas lights here. Now they haven't started it yet, but just after the McDonald's sign, there's a little road goes down to Hanover Square, and near Christmas last year anyway, they had a very nice ice skating rink there. They don't seem to be doing it this year. When we go through the lights, on your right you've got John Lewis. Now if you're not from England, John Lewis is a very famous department store. There are branches all over England, but this is the... lots of late opening in the run up to Christmas now. Very nice window displays, very colourful window displays, rather than nice perhaps, very colourful. Now when we get to Piccadilly, we see Fortnum & Mason, very glamorous old food shop, very big one. They have fantastic window displays. They're famous for it. We'll see those later. So here we are, very nice glamorous front to Selfridges. Now, just after Selfridges, on your right, you've got Marks & Spencer. If you're from England, you know where that is. If you're not from England, Marks & Spencer is a very big, popular department store selling affordable clothes and less affordable, actually, food. The food's quite pricey. Now, this is a very... Just beyond it, now we're going to turn left into Park Lane. But if we carried on against the rough of the traffic, just past Marble Arch, there's a triangular pedestrian street to be hanged here. Now, halfway along, between Newgate and Tyburn Gallows, and then into Piccadilly. There's a very famous song about a nightingale singing in Berkeley Square. I don't know if anyone remembers that. Very, very good song from the 1940s. It's a young girl and she's been to a ball with her boyfriend. and they're having a romantic moment in Berkeley Square, and they think they can hear a bird singing. I may be right, I may be wrong, but I'm perfectly willing to swear that as we
Piccadilly Street. Like this. Ang gaganda. London Walk. London
Now, as you
Night.
move forward, if you like to look to your right, after the Ritz, see
building.
these three arches. It's a very smart
nice.
restaurant. It's called the Wolsey. Wolsey was an upmarket type of British car, and it's not made anymore. This was a car showroom, hence the big windows. Very smart restaurant. Joan Collins eats here a lot. Lots of movie stars eat here. It's quite noisy because it's very marble. I've only eaten there a couple of times, but it's very noisy. But it's still a nice restaurant to go to for a special. He's always boarded up in any case before New Year's Eve, because otherwise all the drunks try and climb on top of him and damage it. We're going to go down Haymarket. It's called this because it used to be a market for hay, funnily enough. And we're going to see two theatres. On the left we're going to see the Theatre Royal Theatre Royal Haymarket, which is very pretty, very elegant. It's our oldest working theatre in continuous use. It's been going since the 1720s. On the other side of the road, on the right-hand side, is His Majesty's Theatre, the only theatre in England that changed its name depending on the sex of the monarch. For the previous 70 years, it was Her Majesty's. It's where the Phantom of the Opera. They're not nearly as pretty as the one in Rome, but like the ones in Rome, people throw coins in there. So if you're ever short of cash, and we're going to go through the lights and round behind Charles's statue again and down Whitehall. Now Whitehall's named after Whitehall Palace. It was burnt down in the 1690s. All the Colosseum, home of English National Opera. The globe moves round very gradually. It says Colosseum on the top. It's a very beautiful theatre as well. So here we go. We can go down Whitehall. At the end of Whitehall is Big Ben and Parliament. Now we're going to go round Parliament Square. We'll be able to talk about that a bit when we're a bit nearer. You can just about, you see the gap in this building work here. When we move forward, you can about the House of Parliament when we go around Parliament Square. Now the next building with all the flags ahead of you on the left is the old War Office. It's now the Raffles, brand new 5-star hotel. But just after the traffic light, Mrs. Thatcher, they put up proper security gates here. You'll see there's always police standing there as if they're expecting someone to try and jump over at any minute. Are any there now? Or is it too cold for them? Oh no, there's a couple there now, just a couple. Now this is the cenotaph. You see all the wreaths here in a moment, because this is where we had the remembrance service led by the King yesterday. This is by Sir Edwin Lutyens. Went up in 1919 to commemorate the dead of World War I. Now it commemorates all of our war dead. Very, very moving. You see the arches here. If you go through the arches to the dignity, but there we are. You've got some statues at the front. Again, you can't really see them. Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, and then Millicent Fawcett, who campaigned for votes for women, which they got obviously in 1918. Now on the other side of the church is Westminster Abbey. You've got a little bit of grass here and loads and loads and loads of crosses for people who died in the war, different regiments, different aircraft, different naval ships. It's a little field of remembrance here. Now the Christmas connection with Westminster Abbey, although they're Victorian, they look older, but they're actually Victorian, built in the 1840s, 50s. So hopefully the lights will stay green. Yes. Now, if you look to your right, you see the great big window that's floodlit? That's Westminster Hall window. That's where Her Majesty's coffin was for several days before her funeral at the Abbey. Quarters of the Commons sit on green leather benches. Westminster Bridge is painted green, and the lights underneath it are green. When we go over the bridge, when we look to our right, we see Lambeth Bridge. It's near the House of Lords. They sit on red leather benches. It's coloured red and has red lights. You can see in the distance, if you look straight ahead, on top of the roofs, you can see the Shard in the distance, tallest building in England, like shards of glass at the top. Prince Andrew went abseiling down there and survived.
Alright.
So we're going to go round the corner. When we go around the corner, we're going to see what's part of the Premier Inn Hotel now, but it's an old building, and it was called the General Lying In Hospital, opened in 1830. And it was for women in childbirth. It was a very important public health outreach project because a lot of people died.